Hello and welcome to our special spoilercast episode for the episode 4 of The Last of Us HBO series. My name's Dylan Blight and joining me, Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here. Kansas City.
Is that a thing people say? I don't know.
I know.
I don't know, maybe. This week's episode is the shortest, so there's that. Also, it's titled Please Hold My Hand. Please Hold to My Hand, sorry. Synopsis was, after Joel and Ellie leave Bill and Frank's compound, they come across something that is even more deadly than an infected. People. Joel must protect Ellie at all costs. Least he relive what happened to his daughter all those years ago. Jesus, what a synopsis. What do you think of this week's episode?
Yeah, another good episode. I mean, it's not the best one so far, but it was enjoyable. Definitely hit moments from the games that I'm sure will make people happy, especially after last week. You get the magazine scene. Are you happy now? You know? She pretends she's touching semen. It's hilarious. Yeah, I think, this was a great episode of building the relationship between Joel and Ellie. And, obviously you start the episode with she's cargo and you end the episode with them laughing over diarrhea. I mean, that's how all parental bonds are formed.
I hear, yeah.
Normally it's like changing nappies, but in this case it's diarrhea puns, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a really good episode. Obviously, it's not the best episode of the season. I don't know if anything will top last week's episode, but that's sort of in a can, that one. But this also felt like the most normal episode of this felt like the most just normal TV episode, and not like I don't know, like every other episode's felt like, you had a finale and the second episode, like everything just seems like it's like almost like an anthology series, but it's not. I don't know if that makes any sense. This just felt like a normal structured television episode, almost like the first episode of the season in some ways. They introduce these new villains and whatever else. So yeah, just structurally wise, it felt interesting the way it all paced out. But
it's clearly a two-part arc. Well, that's 2-episode arc. So really what it feels like is like back in, I don't know, the earlier runs of Doctor Who or the new Doctor Who, when they would throw in a random 2-part episode.
Yeah, you'd have you'd have the 2-part opener, then you'd have like the one-off shitty episode, another one-off random good episode, then you'd have another 2-parter, so similar to that, but yeah. This week's episode, so it just sort of has, obviously the episode starts with Joel and Ellie, they're in the truck, and you get I rewatched afterwards. I just went and looked up the cutscene from the car, and it is crazy just how much. And watching it, it's basically shot for shot. But I watched the cutscene afterwards, and it's just like the dialogue's nearly exactly the same. To the tape and everything like that. It's like, you found a winner though, and all that sort of stuff. And then I'm just fucking with you, and throws the magazine out the window. Like all the famous. I feel like, and like where I fall on like keeping to the games, I appreciate they keep those moments over like sticking to things like Bill, because to me they're just like it's just the little things, and I think I said this before, just the little things like the magazine out the window with I'm just fucking with you, like they just stick in your memory for some reason from that game. Is just one of the more little scenes that is just funny and amusing, and part of that relationship bonding between Joel and Ellie that I think stands out. So I appreciate that they stick to that. But obviously one thing they add in is you get the little camping scene where they drive off into the middle of buttfuck nowhere, and they start teasing, I guess, that Joel's very much saying that the true villain of the show is people, not the infected, and he's scared, and he's like, he's trying to pretend like they definitely know it could come, but then he's laying there, and then they cut to him just like presumably staying up all night or getting like an hour's sleep, and then just waking up and standing guard anyway, sort of thing. No trust that they'll be okay. So, and then once they get into town, Kansas City, they've incorporated where the fuck is it actually in the game? I forgot now where they changed Pittsburgh, yeah. So they've moved the Pittsburgh events up to this area and now made it Kansas, which is whatever, doesn't really matter.
As a non-American,
as a
whatever.
non-American, couldn't give two shits about what that means to the.
I don't know
like
anything.
Yeah.
Like geographically, like
yes.
Like it could be a complete detour to Wyoming for all I know.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just like a thing where they re-looked at the map and they're like, actually, it probably makes more sense for this to happen here. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I don't care. Yeah, so they have instead of the scene in the game where obviously Joel pulls up at the highway and like the straight road is blocked off and he just like diverts down and all that sort of stuff. This way, it's the tunnels blocked off and very obviously blocked off to deter people and get them to have to go through town. Well, at least that's what I got.
That. I think there's a chance. And yeah, it's a big bus. That's in the way.
It's a big bus. There's nothing on the other side. They clearly show that the tunnel's empty. There's no cars in there at all. There's no cars on the other side.
That's fair.
Like it's just blocked across the front of it. So I took it as it was purposely blocked off. Yeah, and then
but when you meet the people who are in the city, it doesn't really feel like they would block them off. I guess they do set traps to like take out random.
So without going too heavily, because we're trying to avoid spoilers beyond
this episode
in the current episode. If these are the same, these are meant to be the hunters that you have in the game, right? And if they are, then they do some fucked up shit. Now they hinted that with the smoldering piles of bodies you see them driving past when they first get into the city. So I don't think they've fully removed the potential what these people are up to and what they do. So is what I would say. I know. Yeah. Although the interesting thing is, of course, once you get into the whole, you still get the person pretending to be hurt, and it's a little bit less dramatic without a bus coming down to hit them like it does in the game and whatever else. They just like it's fine.
They didn't want to risk Pedro and Bella getting hit by a car at any point. They cut it from the opening of the first episode. Where they replaced the car crash with the plane.
Yeah, plane crash. Yeah, just
don't want cars in cars.
So you get that whole scene that plays out with them being attacked and stuff. But then the major change here is, of course, we cut across to new characters that have been introduced, which is Milena Lisinski's Kathleen and Jeffrey Pierce, aka the original Tommy. Played the original Tommy in the game, who's playing Perry, who's I guess her right hand man. Now, as I was saying, like trying to dodge spoilers or all that sort of stuff. If they are the hunters, which I'm saying I presume they are, they're a group that we never actually got a leader or anything in the game because they didn't need it. You just knew they were like bad guys and it's a video game, shoot them, right? Here, giving them a leader, I think is super interesting. And also the way that they're playing upon they've taken over the Fedra facility. She's got a doctor captured from, I guess, a doctor who was part of Fedra, who she's sort of questioning at the start. They're looking for Henry, a character that most people would remember, of course, from the games, being and has like a prominent sort of role for a couple hours of the game and about to be a major character, I guess, in the second part of this 2-arc story. None of these are things from the game. Like Henry was never being tracked down by someone for very personal reasons because you never had this Kathleen character. All these changes, I really like them though. I think it's because now you get into this, even if they leave the hunters as fucked up as they are in the game, having them be led by someone who, now you're getting into questioning who's even right, because the show's already showed you that Fedra's fucked up and they're not good. So then you've got a group that's taken over them, but they're not good. It continues down the reign of like, well, no one's really the good guys. It's just Joel admits in this episode that he's been on both sides. Like he's not really a good guy either. There's no good guys in this. There's no true
even
good
shit talks of Fireflies. I mean,
yeah, they're bad guys. Like, yeah. So I think that. What do you think of the Melanie Lisinski in this? Because obviously I'm a big fan of her from Yellow Jackets. She's in other things, but like obviously that's the most recent prominent role.
Yeah. I mean, she's good with the little bit she gets. I mean, it definitely makes that group of hunters, I guess, more memorable when you've got a face to them. Like of the entire game. This is a section I don't particularly remember. Other than, the two kids. But yeah, I mean, she's good. It's interesting, I guess. This group of people have taken over this city, and obviously built up their own community where like these three people die and everybody is like heartbroken and upset about it and want to get revenge or whatever. So yeah, I think it's an interesting dynamic, I guess.
I think it also, again, without going into spoilers, I think it also preemptively sets up and lays into your mind the type of dynamics and characters and the moral grey of this world that'll help make events in The Last of Us Part 2 make a lot more sense when you're trying to pick a good guy versus bad guy scenario, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure.
It just, yeah. So
I get a feeling not to go too far ahead, but again, I think people are going to guess who the bad guy is pretty quick.
I don't know, but who is the bad guy in Part 2? That's the question. Who's the bad guy and who's the bad guy? Who's the bad guy? Flour, sugar. Are these not the true villains?
Yeah.
Who really are we?
Mushrooms this last couple of years. So.
Yeah, pushing mushrooms. I really enjoyed seeing Melanie. I really like this casting of because it again goes against the grain of in any sort of stereotypical Hollywood movie. This role is macho dude, white dude. Usually, it would be Jeffrey Pierce. He would be the leader. It would be the role reversal. Like, so he's the gruff dude, the beard. He's the leader, right? So I sort of enjoy this. She's obviously well respected. You gather that by the fact that she's leading this group. We don't know the full history between them all, but she's well respected enough. She's done some fucked up things, but she's also not. She has that little bit of like, I guess, left in her. She, like the doctor's talking about like birthing her, like he's like, I brought you into this world or whatever, and all this, and you can tell she has a little bit, I guess, of humanity left in her from that. Like maybe she, for a long time, the doctor's a family friend. I don't know. So that pulling the gun, was sort of.
So then
she wasn't sure at first, but she goes and doing him anyway. So yeah, they at first you're like, I know, is she a bad guy or not? And when she charges back into that room and bang, you're like, okay, she's probably the bad guy. I don't know. So, but swing it. Actually, I'll just finish up with these characters, and we can swing back to Joel and Ellie. The other cool thing obviously they tease in this episode is when they're out looking for Henry and scouring the city eventually for Joel and Ellie, is you do get that scene where they look into that building and the ground's moving and like rumbling, and you're like, what the fuck is now? You can presume what's coming out there if you've played the game. I think I know exactly what room from the game that is supposed to be, because it's it looks similar. So, but that is sort of freaky to look at, and I like the way they don't fully explain or anything. Like the dialogue between the characters is just like, we'll deal with that later. And Perry, Jeffrey Pierce's character, is like, no, and she's like, no, we'll deal with it later. We should tell everyone. No, we're not going to tell anyone. Like, you can tell they're scared, like, of whatever it is. So, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, setting up like a reasonable threat to go into next week. I mean, I think people can guess from maybe the trailers what it would be, but
I haven't even looked. I never watched the next week trailer, so I presume it's
like the original.
Oh, I was going to say, what's in there is definitely
especially if you played the games again.
Yeah, it's definitely in the original trailer. It's at the very end of the original trailer, though. So swinging back to Ellie and Joel, so they went after the car crash, and you get the shootout scene. I like how I like the way the shooting is here. Like, it's very loud, very like every shot's. This ain't no weak pea shooters there. Like, I don't know, just something the way
I'm sure it's also because there's no other background noise.
Maybe,
you know what I mean?
I don't know. Just
it would make sense that there would be standout more.
I was appreciating the sound design or something, I think, but. I like also here you get to see that Joel ain't no fucking stormtrooper, right? He's
despite shots. What he said about missing shots last episode.
He misses less. He hits most of his shots.
Yes,
is the thing, because he pops up and knocks that dude down pretty quick. So, but obviously the standout here is, or the most key scene is Ellie having to come out and save Joel by shooting that dude in the back, and then that dude just being like, I want my mommy, and I don't want to, and just like they really go for the most over the top dude begging for his life, but Joel's still like that Ellie's just shot this dude. I don't know, like they really want you to play up. The showrunners, I guess, they really want to play up the whole like, you know, are they the bad guys? Like, are they? I don't know. Like they're very like trying to play any sympathies, I guess, with the begging part. Because I was expecting to whip out a gun at last second, because then at least it's the whole, you know, like
you can justify.
Greedo was pulling out a gun, so Han shot him. Like that's the change that
depending
George
on
Lucas
if you
did.
believe George.
Yeah,
Lucas
well, that's what. But so George Lucas did that. So if he did that, then it's like, it's fine. He justified it, but he never does. Like he just kills him in cold blood. It's fine. And then Ellie says that she's never, after the whole thing, you do see that she's crying at first, like a couple tears when she goes back into the room. And she tries to play it all off as cool, doesn't really matter,
yes.
I'm all good and stuff like that. But when they get into that room, wherever they are, they're hiding out for a bit there once all the trucks are driving around. They're talking about it. I think this was probably my favorite scene in the show. Just the, like, that moment of her, or this episode, sorry, that moment of her sort of breaking for a second there, and like the few tears coming out, and then her saying it wasn't her first time shooting someone, then Joel actually giving her the gun back and showing her how to hold it properly, then telling her not to shoot her ass off, and then her proceeding to put the gun back in her pocket anyway. What do you think of this scene?
Yeah, I think it was really good. I think obviously you've got that moment of Ellie shooting the dude and like her like being in shock and like kind of having to push it down emotionally straight away, which obviously will have repercussions probably going forward. This seminal moment. Yeah, I thought it was really sweet. And again, another moment of them building this relationship between the two of them, and like Joel giving fatherly advice, I guess, to a daughter about how to hold a gun and make sure somebody doesn't steal it from you.
It's important advice.
It is.
I feel.
Especially in apocalypse.
In apocalypse, yeah.
Really more so than current day.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course, when you get to the back end of the episode, they make their way through the city, climb up a very long set of stairs until Joel's out of breath. They confirm his age is 56.
No, 38 stairs, 34 stairs. There's a flight.
That's a while. That's a fair hike.
I would not like to do that, so
no. Exactly.
I'll just say that.
Exactly. So his age in this is the age he is in The Last of Us Part 2 in the game. I think it was 56, but yeah, I saw someone online post that that's the age he is in the game. Part 2 though, not Part 1. So interesting. That means he'll just be older, I guess, if they do a time jump between seasons or something. Okay. It's fine. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but like, just interesting. Yeah, so they climb upstairs. You get the whole, like, I'm pretty sure I haven't played the game for 2-3 years, whatever it was. But I'm pretty sure Joel does the same thing with the glass, or maybe I'm just dreaming that. But then, of course, you get the sweet moment where Ellie's been reading out this bloody joke book all episode, much all like she does all these puns like she does in the game. Except for you can kind of ignore them in the game because you have to go up to her and press triangle to hear them. So you can just walk away and be like, fuck you. Here, there's no choice. So all episode, he's been like not wanting to give in, or, you know, it's just like, go to sleep.
Screwing it.
Shut up. Like,
telling the punchline.
Yeah, telling the punchline, ruin the joke. But here she tells one about diarrhea and just really cracks him up. First time you ever see Pedro Pascal smile on the show.
Diarrhea is hereditary?
Yeah, I did.
Runs in your genes.
Yeah, that was the one that broke through his iron cage heart, apparently.
Yep.
So, and obviously that's a really sweet moment to see them, like him and her laughing. Like it's a bonding moment. It's really good to see. And then they cut to the morning after. Joel didn't wake up with the glass, or they stuck in something else, or they were already in the room. I don't know. Find out next week.
He rolled onto his left. He rolled onto
his other ear, and he didn't hear it. Yeah. But yes, Henry and Sam are in the room, who the characters that Kathleen and her group have been mentioning a lot and have been looking for, because obviously Henry's done something to Kathleen to wrong her. He used to be part of that group, whatever, that Fedra part of the thing. And you know,
the way they were talking about it is like she feels he's responsible for her brother's death.
Yeah.
So
whether or not that's actually like just happens,
true,
true, yeah,
like
fine, yeah, we'll see what he says. But obviously Sam's dressed up in his full superhero outfit, which is the pictures that Perry found when he went into, or Kathleen found when Perry led her to the little hidey hole that they were sitting there with all the cans of food and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a cliffhanger towards next week. Anything else from this episode that I'll miss? Any things you can think of?
No, I think, you know, obviously then a bunch of probably like small moments, and like, of course, there's a bunch of Ellie getting thrown through window. That very much evoked the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, good episode. So next week's episode should just go straight into it. And next week's episode, next week, I mean this
reminds
week.
me, you know, I saw people complaining last week there were no zombies. There was no zombies in this episode either.
True. But the only person I saw complain about that is a fuckwit who... Yeah, anyway.
And there literally was a zombie.
There was more zombies in last week's, and they're not zombies anyway, but there was more zombies in last week's episode than there are in this week's episode.
Yeah.
There's none. This last week had one?
Mm-hmm.
At least
two,
one.
I guess.
Two? All right. Had 200% more than this episode.
Well, infinitely more.
Infinitely more than this episode, yeah. So let's see what old Mr. I'm the god of knowing how to critique movies says. Oh, okay, I don't really actually care. Who cares? I have him blocked. I only say this when people screenshot things, obviously. Next week's episode is actually this week, so that's the interesting thing. It'll drop on Saturday.
Yes.
Did they say 1 p.m. still? Or what's it go? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's the same time.
1 p.m. So 1 p.m. Saturday because of the Super Bowl, which is happening, if you care about
Monday.
that.
I'm in America.
Yeah.
So
foosball.
It's still airing on HBO at the same time, but it's coming to HBO Max and everywhere else in the world, I guess, early. So.
Yeah. So you can watch 2 episodes this week and just means you get no episode next week. So, well.
No, you just have to wait longer.
You have to wait long. Yeah, but there's no episode next
week. This week is a 5-day wait. Next week, there'll be like a 9-day wait.
Yeah. There's no episode next week. Next week's episode is this week. All right, so we'll be back. We haven't talked about organized when we're going to record this week's epispe, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, we'll figure that out. It'll be on the podcast feed. Thank you for listening to this spoilercast discussion of Please Hold to My Hand. Hope you're enjoying the show. We'll be back here to talk about episode 5 in a few days, I guess. That'll be fun. Enjoy it sometime soon. Enjoy.
What do you think the title means? This is the one that I didn't understand.
I assume
is it the song that plays?
I assume it's the song, right? Let me just quickly copy that and go to the Googles. Google says no, it doesn't come up with a song. No, I can't say anything. Meaning? Hold on. Let's go. Please hold on my hand. Meaning? No, I got nothing. Don't know. Who cares? It's a title. Goodbye.
Is there like no hand holding in the episode?